Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Real Talk. I'm your host, Pat Brock, and we are here in Tennille, Georgia for the centennial year of the Georgia Department of Transportation. You know, it's so exciting to be here to kind of find out about the things that these men and women have been doing through the years, and who better to talk with first, Mr. Jimmy Smith. How are you?
I'm doing great, Pat. How are you doing today?
Doing well. So nice to meet you.
And you as well.
Now, Jimmy, we want you to kind of talk to us a little bit about you, and let's talk about your work here that you've been doing with the Georgia Department of Transportation, and we hear that you're a little bit of a historian.
Well, I try to be. I like history. I think we fail when we don't learn from it, of course. And I do like to keep the history of the department alive, especially from the prospect that those that came before me taught me very well, and I like to teach my young engineers when they come on. It's important to know where you came from, in my opinion, before you can figure out really where you're going.
That's right.
So, yes, this is our centennial year, 100 years old this year.
You don't even look it.
Well, thank you, Pat.
Congratulations. That's a milestone.
Yeah, and I will say I've been here 26 of those 100, so I started with the department in 1990. And as a district engineer, I do my best to say grace over a lot of things here in the department. We cover 27 counties in East Central Georgia. All the maintenance, all the construction. We do design here. We purchase right away for new projects and everything else. We have traffic operations and utilities as well here, housed in the district office. And those are the major functions here within our office. Now,
let me tell the people this too, since you said that your district covers 27 counties. There's actually 7 districts in the Georgia Department of Transportation, and this is District 2. We want you all to know that. And also, just from research that I was just reading about, just so much of the history of what you all have done in all the different counties, and it's just amazing.
well, if you go back 100 years, we were all riding mules and walking around
And bicycles.
And bicycles. Exactly. You know, cycling was big back then, believe it or not. It really was. I'm a cyclist, so I kind of remember a little bit about that.
Right.
I have a picture saved from the Tennille Cycling Club, and there's
Do
must
you?
be 30 in it, but then it was taken back in the early 20s, I believe. But anyhow, yes, 100 years ago we didn't have a lot of roads
Right.
and a lot of mud, and we're up out of the mud now. And we got bridges in the state. You know, go down to Brunswick and look at a bridge that's 300 foot up in the air,
It's
and
amazing.
think about where we've come in the last 100 years, and where we're going to go in the next 100.
Right.
You know, in a young engineer that gets hired today, he's going to be faced with challenges of autonomous vehicles. I don't think it's very far in the future where we're going to see trucks that drive themselves from the port to an inland port
Right.
in a convoy down I-16 and such. I think that's coming.
It is.
Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 20, but I think we're going to get there eventually. Looking back on the department and the 100 years of where we came from,
Right.
you know, you're talking about starting out when the Model T
Absolutely.
was on the market. And vehicles didn't have heaters and didn't have doors.
They didn't. And the tires were really small, so they could
Really
maneuver
small.
through the mud and different things like that.
Now we got a vehicle, you can actually buy a vehicle that'll drive itself.
I don't want one of those, though.
Well, that's how far we've come. in
That's
100
amazing.
years.
Yeah.
We built the interstate system in that 100 years. You know, it started in the 1950s, the Eisenhower interstate system. And it's a direct product of Eisenhower making a trip across the United States when he was with the cavalry unit, I believe, and how long it took him. And the idea of the interstate system goes all the way back to that journey that he took across the United States.
That's so amazing. And, you know, when you think about that and how times have changed, and in the 50s, you had a lot of innovative things happening.
Exactly.
The Air Pollution Act, I remember that when, you know, vehicles now that are so big, they produce so much into the air, you know, it's, back then you didn't have that.
No, you did not.
And so your roads didn't have to be the same as they are now.
That's true. There's a lot of, you know, emissions with vehicles and things are down. In fact, they're actually better today than they were in the 70s and the 60s when the Clean Air and Water Act was passed. If you go back and look at how we built roads back in the 50s,
Right.
it was still a lot of labor back then. and there's been a lot of invention in the road contracting industry to where a lot of the hands-on labor has been taken away. To give you a very good example, most all our projects now are graded with self-control equipment. You set up an instrument on the project and it sends electronic data to those pieces of equipment. The operator doesn't actually adjust the blade on it anymore. The machine does it all by itself through a computer program and modeling that's been built and downloaded into the machine.
That's definitely a technology that is advanced. There were years ago that I had also read that people had to work 10 days out of the year to help with the roads.
That is very true.
Or they had to pay 50 cents.
That is very true. I have seen an article here at the local paper back at the turn of the century where it was posting an article that such and such a day was going to be road work day, and all men and boys of age were to show up with picks and shovels and implements to work on the local roads with.
Couldn't get that to fly this time.
No. That's what we have taxes for now.
That's
you can't
right.
Get them to fly either.
That's right, and just reading about that, because I think that for a person like me, being a civilian, not understanding everything about the Georgia Department of Transportation and reading about it has just been really, really interesting.
Well, we've been a leader across the nation for a long time here at GDOT. We've been recognized for a very, very long time as having some of the best maintained roads in the nation.
They are the best.
And with a very limited workforce. Back when I started with the department in 1990, we had somewhere around 7,000 employees, and we're down to just right at about 4,000 now. Wow. And so we continue to do more with less and less people. And part of that's innovation through technology and other things of that nature, but a lot of it's just through the changing of times, and we contract out a lot of stuff that we used to do in-house now. And
could you tell the people about some of the things that you are responsible for, like the rest areas?
This is true.
I'm telling you, this is like a history lesson that I have just been learning for the past few days.
Well, at the department, we're charged with building and maintaining the system, and the system being all the state routes in the state, all the interstate system and state routes like State Route 31 and down near Dublin, US 378, all those are owned systems. So we have to build and maintain and operate them. Right. So we have to restripe the road when it gets a new paint line on it. We maintain the traffic signals for the most part. All those that are on the system, we maintain. We continuously doing studies out on the system to look for places where we have a safety problem, that we may need to change this or that, or add some striping or signing or something of that nature. We also permit access along the state routes through driveway permit, commercial driveway permit access. We permit utilities to be on the state route system. Public utilities are there by law, says they can be on public right-of-ways by permit. So we're charged at DOT with permitting that. And of course, all the maintenance. We cut the grass, we keep the ditches clean, we keep the pipes clean. When we have a problem, we respond. We're right now as we film, we're getting ready for the hurricane that's coming ashore in the Gulf Coast. And our crews will be responding tomorrow if need be, depending on how much rain we get over tonight and through all day tomorrow.
Could you explain to them about the HEROES, what those acronyms mean and what that entails, especially if there's some hazardous situation?
Yeah, the HEROES operate in the Atlanta metropolitan area. The HERO is an acronym for Highway Emergency Response Operator. It began in 1995, just in advance of the 1996 Olympics, I believe. They started out with just a few operators and just a few miles covered around in the downtown Atlanta area, and it's it's grown over the past 20 plus years until it covers well over a couple of hundred miles that's actually monitored by the HERO. And they're charged with keeping the lanes open and helping stranded motorists and everything else. They've delivered babies and everything else alongside the interstate in Atlanta. So
was that in the job description?
I don't think so, but you typically find that a HERO operator is very much akin to a police officer, a firefighter,
emergency response.
Emergency response. They're of the same mold, yes. So.
Keith Graham here at Dublin Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of your lifetime warranty. Yes, lifetime warranty. That's what you get when you buy from us. We'd like to thank all of you for helping make 2016 a success for the first half. For the rest of you, we'd like to invite you by to see how you could qualify for up to $12,000 in rebates for this nice Ram truck, or how you, with your good credit, could get 84 months with 0% interest for 84 months. You may even qualify for $149 a month on a brand new Jeep Cherokee. We'd like to invite the rest of you by to see what your friends have seen already. The car business is changing because we're the ones changing it.
This is, people, we hope that you are understanding just what he's saying, because it's so very impressive, and the different things that have happened and changed through the years, and things that we don't even think about every day. You all are doing it to make sure that it's done, so we don't even think about that.
That's
the
true.
Speed limit.
We set speed limits on state route.
I remember when it said 55 saves
Let me
lives.
back up and read. Exactly. That was in the 70s, during the Carter
When I was
administration.
born.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, some of us will learn how to drive back then. I'm showing my age on it.
You are.
Yeah.
You are.
But yes, the legislature actually sets the speed limits. We lower them
You
through
lower them.
engineering study. That's what we're charged with, yes. We also maintain a local database of all the roads that are on radar permit by local jurisdictions. We handle that. And of course, again, back to all the construction. Every time you see a construction project on the state route system, for the most part, it's our contractor who's out there doing it. We've been in the contracting business for 100 years too.
You've got one company that's been contracting with you since you came into fruition, Snell.
Snell has been here for a very, very long time, and they're out of Snellville, Georgia. So,
Georgia's doing it, aren't they?
yeah. And actually, before I came to work with the department, I actually worked with the contractors. So I've seen this industry from both sides of the fence, so to speak.
How has your experience been in these past 26 years? From when you first started and to where you are now, very seasoned.
Well, I will say one of the biggest changes is technology and the advent of the personal computer.
What was that back then?
When I came to work with the department, I went to work in traffic operations in the traffic signal section, and we had the biggest computer in the district. It was an IBM Personal 50. It had 20 megs, 20 megs of RAM of memory. That's all it had. That was a
phone. That's an iPhone.
Well, that's a lot less than an iPhone. That's a lot less than an iPhone.
Gigabytes and
Oh yeah.
that's amazing.
And
How
now you got more than that on your phone. When I came to work, we were still drawing with triangles and scales and with pencils on plans and doing what we'd call blue lines back then. We still did a lot of drawing with plans. The design room was moving to digital drafting and all, but we still did a lot of plans in other sections by hand. By hand, I mean with drafting the way that I was taught in the 70s and 80s how to draft.
So when you have engineers of today that are working with you, an engineer who started years ago, is there much of a difference? Do you see that there's a difference as far as the way you work as opposed to a new engineer fresh out of college?
Well, I do think there's a big difference. We look at things differently.
Yeah.
Obviously, I learned to solve a lot of problems out there with a lot of hand tools and string lines and things of that nature. And the engineers that we get today, they're more digital aspect, I guess you might say, or digital solution toward all the problems. And I don't fault that at all. It's just the way that we've migrated to.
Right.
So that's been the biggest change in the 26 years that I've been here is the revolution that we've seen with these and all the digital stuff that's come along since I've been here.
And another thing about digital, we think about things or don't necessarily think about it, like with the traffic lights, the cameras. Do you put those cameras up there?
That's correct. Those cameras are actually, they detect a vehicle. And a lot of people think they're red light cameras, and that's not true. Basically, they're just looking at the roadway, and when a vehicle pulls into the view of the camera, it sends a message down to the traffic signal controller that there's a vehicle here that needs to be serviced, green, red, whatever, and the signal itself is actually a computer that's mounted in the silver box that you see out there, with a lot of inputs and outputs. Still basically just a computer.
So things that we might see it, but not necessarily understand what it's for, the purpose of it.
That's right. And when I started here, we still had a lot of traffic signal controllers that were just exactly like you would expect they would be. They were actually something similar to a clock that sat in there and spun, and it was electromechanical, but it was a clock that actually spun on a certain cycle length. And it didn't have any electrical inputs, and it didn't know how much traffic was out there, and it didn't know how to respond to traffic. Everything that we have out there now is being digital and computer driven. It can respond to needs that are actually, it's seeing real time on the pavement. So that's been a huge change, huge change. We taught the traffic signals.
I've got another one for you.
All right.
Okay, you'll see a sign that says trucks over 56,000 whatever can't be on this road.
That's right.
And then you have the weigh stations.
That's correct.
Now, could you explain that as far as why it has to be a certain amount? Is it because of what you build the roads as far as what it can
To a large
handle?
portion, yes. What you're speaking about is Georgia law has a weight limit on certain city streets and county roads, okay? It's 56,000 pounds normally.
Yes,
on a
I
county-
just saw that.
on a county road, okay? I think our weight limit is, and I may be off a little, but I think our weight limit's about 80 on the state route system. And it is for exactly what you talked about. Typically, a county road or a city street has less of a section, a typical section, meaning the layers that we've constructed there that can support the load. So the less layers you have, the less material you have on the road, the more failure you can have given a heavy weight on it. So.
And you know, Mr. Jimmy, Georgia roads are so amazing, and I say this all the time. When we were stationed somewhere else in another state and just driving, I've driven from Kansas to Georgia many times, and I'm telling you, it's nothing like a Georgia road because I could tell the absolute difference. I don't want to call any states out, but some are awful.
That's true.
And to where, potholes, things that you don't normally see on a Georgia road, or if you do see it, you get it fixed. And so I have seen such a big difference in all these different states. There's nothing like Georgia roads.
Well, for a very long time, and again, won't name any states, but you could always say, well, you can feel when you leave Georgia in the seat of your pants, because when you cross the line, it's going to change,
It's the truth.
no matter where you went.
It's true.
And we've had a lot of visitors to our fair state tell us the same thing. We're very proud that we are recognized nationwide as being a top maintainer of our roads.
And for the 96 Olympics, you all were given high accolades for how the traffic flowed during the Olympics.
That's very true. We were. The HERO units, the Transportation Management Center just came online right before the Olympics. Right. And that's the TMC downtown off Confederate Avenue, where we went in and put some cameras downtown and was able to monitor a lot of things and send a HERO unit there if we had a problem. Being able to see a traffic jam or a traffic problem in the downtown area during the Olympics was paramount. And we were a leader across the nation as having a transportation management center.
And
one of the very first ones.
see, I'm telling you. So it's not just me thinking Georgia roads are great, or not just us thinking. What message, sir, do you want to get to the people out there about Georgia Department of Transportation that they may not necessarily know, that we haven't talked about, or something that you want to reiterate? And we talked about, and safety is so important.
It's very important. For the last couple of years now, we've seen our fatality rate increase. And primarily it's been to what we can tie it down to is distracted driving. Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people say, we used to drive and text like this, and then we changed the law, so now we drive and we text like this. So yeah, I mean, it's the truth. We do. We all are guilty of it to some degree, I would imagine. Yeah. And we really need to be more. We need to pay attention more.
Yeah, we need to be more aware of our surroundings.
Exactly. We don't need to be doing that while we drive.
Right.
it's costing people's lives. We've had, on more than one occasion, a young teenager gets a brand new car, and they're texting, driving, and 3 days later they're a fatality. And that's very sad, and it has a lasting impact on a family forever. And we really need to curb that, because our fatality rates are climbing, and you know, you're putting your own self
At risk.
and the people around you
at risk.
Exactly. So the next thing I think that I would want to point out to our listeners is that we've been given a huge challenge by our legislature. They've passed a funding bill in 2015 that has given us close to another $1 billion a year in funding. We've gone from what we've been traditionally a $2 billion industry in the state, had about $1 billion, give or take a couple $100 million per year with state funds, and we'd always get around about $1 billion in federal funds every year, so roughly about a $2 billion industry. Now we've gone to a $3 billion industry. And we're trying real hard to put a lot of work on the street. You're going to see a lot of orange barrels. You're going to see cones. You're going to be interrupted. Please bear with us, because we haven't been able to fix the roads like we want to in a long time. We haven't been able to add capacity in a long time. We haven't been able to do this or that, or a lot of things that we, for years and years, especially in the early part of my career, we always done, and we had plenty of funding back then, but times changed and we didn't. But now we have it, and we're going strong again. So I'd like to bring that to our listeners' attention. And our legislatures took a huge step when they did that, and we are going to deliver.
Absolutely. And you're doing it so far, so we're really appreciative of that. And you know, and it does require funding, because some states may not necessarily have the funding to be able to do the work that needs to be done on the roads. I don't think that is something, you know, on purpose.
There are a lot of states that are looking at Georgia right now, and the with the funding act that we have, and there's a lot of states going back, and their legislatures are looking seriously at how they can do that in their own state. So once again, we're a leader out in the nation.
Absolutely. And knowing where to put that money.
That's a big challenge as well. Just having to prioritize the needs. We've got a lot of needs, and we can't get to everything in one day. So we have to prioritize all our needs and spend our dollars wisely and be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
It has. I have enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it. I get excited when I get to talk about my other family, as I like to call it. This is DOT means a lot to me, and I try to give back to the people what they pay me to do. So I hope it shows. I tell a lot of people, if you cut me, I bleed yellow. So center line yellow.
You definitely were the right person to speak to, because, you know, you've kind of shared some things with us that really is going to bring an awareness to what you do, and we appreciate what you all do.
It's been a pleasure.
It has. All right. And listen, by the way, now, my old house that I grew up in, I drove down there the other day. It's a route. It's still not paved. So I don't know if you have any control over that.
County road?
Yes.
You need to call your county commissioner.
So that he could get the ball rolling.
That's right.
All right. It's been a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the district engineer himself, Mr. Jimmy Smith. Thank you.
The Ice House is a beautifully restored warehouse in downtown Dublin that mixes Southern grace and history with an urban modern flair. Book your next special event today at 278-7224. The Ice House, downtown Dublin.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting the opportunity to get the full tour of Georgia Department of Transportation, and we just stopped by the office of Josh Woodard, who's the Safety Enhancement Coordinator. Hi, Josh.
How are you doing?
Doing very well. Listen, thank you for letting us catch you on the spot like this, Josh.
Oh, that's all right.
Tell us about what you do, okay?
Well, my main job is I investigate fatalities to find out if anything in the roadway could have contributed to find out what we need to do to improve our roadways.
And, you know, we talk a lot about safety, so your job is safety.
That's right.
Tell us how your experience has been here, and how long have you been here?
I've been here just over 2.5 years. I started at the bottom cutting ditches, running a weed eater, and I moved up to traffic signals, working on red lights and all. And then I had a huge jump when I moved up to this position.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed my time here, and it's probably the first job I ever had I actually enjoyed going to work.
That is fantastic. And you're from Dublin.
Yes.
Give a shout out to the DUB. Now, we're holding some trophies here, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's what caught our eye. So tell us about these trophies here.
Well, we have our equipment rodeo every year for people that are qualified to operate different equipment, and it's more of safety training and shows while you're operating, you know all the safety that's involved with it, and you go through a different obstacles, and as we went through it the last 2 years, I've got first place at the district. I made it to state this year, but I didn't win there, and next week they'll be having the regional rodeo in Savannah.
So what equipment do you use?
Well, I don't use any equipment anymore, but I used to run dump trucks and tractors. Most of my tractor experience come from growing up on a farm.
Of course, first-hand experience. And so these trophies are from 2015 and 2016.
Yes, ma'am.
What a great incentive it is to not only to learn how to do your job, the safety aspects of it, and then to get the kudos with the trophy.
That's right.
All right, and listen, and we're so thankful, Josh, for all the work that you've been doing here in the different areas that you've worked in, and we want you to keep doing great things.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Josh, the champion.
Stay tuned to TV 35 for parts 2 and 3 of Real Talk with Pat Brock from the Georgia Department of Transportation.